You know, there are some days that just leave a scar on your memory, no matter how many birthdays or bad coffee mornings pile on top. Like the day I drove up that Rag Mountain Road and saw my family's old cabin again, sitting quiet under the pines, like it was waiting for me to come home or maybe bracing for a storm. I hadn't been there in almost 2 decades, not since my father passed. And I figured I'd be clearing out dust, maybe patching a few leaks, breathing in a bit of history. But what I found waiting inside, it knocked the wind clean out of me and changed everything I thought. I knew about justice, about family, about the kind of people who think power means holding a clipboard. That place wasn't supposed to be anybody's business but mine. 30 acres of raw hillside. An old hunting lodge built by calloused hands, tucked deep enough into the Cascades that your cell signal starts to panic halfway up the drive. My old key used to fit like a handshake. That morning, it stuck halfway, and when I pushed, the door just swung wide open, almost like someone had been waiting to greet me. Should have been my first clue. The next was the smell, lemon cleaner. A cheap lavender candle. That did not belong anywhere near the wood smoke and boot mud I grew up with. And there she was, standing by the kitchen counter in her little designer tracksuit. Hair pulled so tight I swear I heard it squeak. No apology, no surprise, just that icy up and down look like I'd tracked something onto her fresh white carpet. "Can I help you?" she asked. Like I was the trespasser. I took a breath, tried to remember if I was dreaming, then told her flat out. "Who are you, and why are you in my house?" She never blinked, just crossed her arms and started. In with that tone. You know the one. Equal parts school principal and prison warden. Told me her name was Marilyn Davenport, and she was the president of the Silver Ridge Homeowners Association. Said the cabin was now community property, annexed as part of their green belt, and it was all perfectly legal. HOA up here? I nearly laughed myself hoarse. I tried to tell her. Slow and clear, my father built this place. I've got the deed, my name's on the tax bill. You can't just walk in and declare it a Pilates studio. But she just smiled, this little smug curve that made my blood want to boil right through my skin, and told me, things change, with that syrupy voice that means you're screwed and you don't even know it. That's when I noticed the old fishing rods. Gone, Dad's tool rack replaced with corkboards, flyers for community yoga and potlucks, even the stone fireplace stuffed with fake river rocks. It was like someone erased my whole family and put up wallpaper. I told her to pack up and get out. She just dialed 911 with one pink finger. "Hostile mail on HOA property," she said, like I was robbing a Walgreens. And that's how I wound up explaining myself to a young sheriff's deputy, my own boots on my own rug. He listened, patient, said it sounded like a civil matter, and that if both sides had paperwork, the courts would have to decide. Marilyn just grinned over his shoulder, acting like she'd already won the Super Bowl. Look, I'm not the blow-up and scream type, not after the things I've seen. In the Army, you learn yelling just makes you a louder target. So, I drove back down the mountain with my hands shaking so bad, I almost missed the turn for the old motel. Didn't sleep much, just stared at the ceiling, running through every angle. Next morning, I was at the county clerk's office before they even put the coffee on. I wanted every scrap of paper on that land. Parcel 14B, 30 acres, willed to me by Daniel Carter. Taxes paid. Deed clear. That should have been the end of it. But then the clerk frowned, flipping through a new map. She showed me. Same land listed twice. Once under my name, once under a Silver Ridge HOA overlay. She explained it. HOA had filed paperwork last year, called my property abandoned, and claimed it as part of their green zone. On paper, she said, it was legal, unless I wanted to hire a lawyer and fight it out, which could take years, cost a fortune, and maybe end in a compromise anyway. You ever hear a word so bitter you feel it in your teeth? Settle. That's what the lawyer said. Settle. Like it was a leaky faucet or a parking ticket. That night, I parked a quarter-mile down from the lodge and just watched. Through my binoculars, I saw Marilyn running a yoga class in what used to be my living room. 12 women, cucumber water, the whole boutique spa scene. That's when the decision was made. I wasn't settling. Not for her, not for anyone. So I started my own campaign. Quiet. Bought a drone, flew it at night, recorded every car, every event, every Friends of Silver Ridge donation box she bolted to my old oak. And then I called up Tanner Reed, a retired surveyor, a guy who still owed me a favor from years back. We dug through the archives, and buried in a box was a 50-year-old easement my father had signed. Permanent access and occupancy rights, bulletproof. Even better, the HOA's annexation forms had a fatal flaw. Out of 5 board members, only 4 signatures. Missing one. That meant the annexation was void. Now I had ammo, just needed the right time to use it. The universe handed me the perfect shot. Marilyn announced a big, splashy wedding up at my lodge. Her moment to shine. I called Tanner. Told him to bring his maps. Called Earl, a retired sheriff's captain, just to witness. Then, a real wild card. Linda Moore, the 5th board member, the one who hadn't signed. You don't have to take sides, I told her, just show up. She agreed, after a long, silent pause. Saturday hit, and the mountain air felt like it could cut glass. I watched from the ridge as guests in suits and cocktail dresses arrived, music floating up through the pines. 5 sharp on the dot, Tanner's old Ford rolled in, Earl right behind him, blocking the only way in or out. I walked down with Linda beside me. Felt the stares from every direction. Didn't say a word. Just walked right over to the hidden breaker box Marilyn's guys had rigged, flipped it off. Whole wedding went black. Lights, music. Every bit of her big moment. Gone in a heartbeat. Marilyn lost it, yelling for someone to find the fuse, but I stepped forward and told everyone, no need to panic. The power's not coming back. This is private property, and you're all guests of a fraud. Gave the father of the bride my folder, deed, maps, photos, the works. I apologized, offered my own lodge up the hill for free, and he, after a long look at me, then at Marilyn, accepted. That was the day her empire started to crumble. Guests left in silence. Folding chairs and fairy lights packed away fast as a rainstorm. I went live on the HOA Facebook group, showed everyone the truth. In minutes, the comments blew up. Folks were tired of being bullied and gaslit. Marilyn peeled off in her SUV, screaming threats I'm pretty sure nobody believed. 3 days later, I walked into the next HOA meeting. The place was packed, veterans she'd fined, families she'd ticketed for the color of their mailbox. All of them ready for war. Marilyn tried to call the meeting to order, but Linda cut her off. You don't have that authority, she said, and dropped the missing signature form right on the table. She listed every violation: illegal annexation, misused funds, power theft. That was my cue. I queued up drone footage, birdhouse cam of her pocketing cash, even her maintenance guy hauling off my dad's old chairs. Dead silence. No one bought her excuses. The room voted to remove her, unanimous. And still, she didn't give up. Over the next week, she filed every bogus complaint and restraining order. You could imagine. My lawyer ate them for breakfast. I sent a fat package of evidence to her real estate firm. 2 days later, her bio vanished from their website. Justice is slow sometimes. But when it hits sweet. A week on, the same young deputy from before pulled up with a warrant, charges filed, theft, wire fraud, trespassing. He handed it to me with a grin. Funny how things turn out, huh? I just smiled. That weekend, I finally opened the lodge for family, my daughter and grandkids, Tanner, Earl, Linda with a plate of brownies. The floor creaked. The porch leaned, but it was home again. As the sun went down, I hung a cedar sign over the door, my father's name, hand-painted by my grandson. That night, with the fire crackling and laughter echoing off the old logs, it hit me. Marilyn thought power was a signature or a threat. But real legacy is built one board, one memory at a time. Paper burns, timber lasts, and sometimes justice shows up in flannel, not a badge. So what do you think? Was I right to fight, or should I have walked away? Drop your take down below. 'Cause sometimes standing your ground isn't about land, it's about legacy.